Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're back in War Thunder and it's time to have a look at a new Warbond shop. This might be one of the best Warbond shops of the year. It is an amazing Warbond shop with many interesting vehicles on offer and also a little bit more. Now they've actually added something called collections into the game in the latest update, update 1.101, and it means that now stuff such as helmets have become a little bit more I suppose worth it instead of just decorations. You know, basically this thing right here, you can get some of these helmets, and if you get all of them you can then get a specific special helmet, this Born to Kill one, which is pretty cool. You can see it right here if I show you it. It has Born to Kill on the front of it, and it also has the wonderful little munitions on the side. So yeah, they've actually made certain items in the Warbond shop a little bit more worth it, which I think is pretty cool. But anyway, let's get into the Warbond shop itself and see what is on offer. The first thing is the Daisy May decal. It looks really nice. You know, it's definitely an interesting decal to go for. I would say personally that, you know, it's probably one which is going to be used for many lewd, interesting decals, so it is kind of how it is. Looking at the test drives that are on offer, we have a Centurion Action X, the Panther Dauphine, or Dauphiné, and then we have the Type 1939, the M26T99, the VK107 Yak III, and that is it. So the Centurion Action X, when it comes to the vehicle test drive, if you want something to add to the already very good 6.7 British lineup, you know, with the Carnarvon, the Cent Mark III, the FV4202, you can bring this in and it's still a solid choice. Has the 84mm with the APDS, so it doesn't do as much damage as maybe you'd want it to, but it's still an incredibly good vehicle because it has access to a stabilizer, also has access to a decent amount of turret armor as well, so you can go hull down pretty effectively. And since not a ton of stuff at this level has a stabilizer, you are able to shoot first a lot of the time, which is of course incredibly important. Really nice gun depression. The only thing really slowing it down is its mobility, which isn't the best, and also I suppose it's quite big, so yeah, that's a bit of an issue. But overall, it's a solid choice if you want to pick something up for the British. Then we have the Panther Dauphine, or the Dauphiné, and what we have here is just a Panther. This is a 5.7 French Panther, which was used during and after the war, and what it is just a very simple 5.7 vehicle. No side skirts, as you can see, so slightly different from the German ones, and also has the markings which show that it is French. The overall Panthers are generally pretty fun to play. They have pretty good armor, especially with this volumetric shell change. They have good gun depression, they have a decent reload, their gun itself has great penetration with the PZGR round, and also just a ton of damage post-pen effect on it. So generally quite survivable as well. If your turret gets popped, you still have two people here, which means that you can still keep on the fight. So it's definitely a vehicle which is pretty good to go for as well. The Type 1939 T31, this is obviously the German rank 3 destroyer. Generally, the premium destroyers are better than their counterparts in the tech tree, and this one is no different. Having the 4105s but having excess of AA means that it does have more armaments than some of its tech tree counterparts at the same level. 4105s is a pretty nice thing to have at 3.7. It pretty much means that you can keep outputting damage for a long time, which is, you know, what you're looking at for a machine like this. Also has quite a large crew complement of 220, and you can, with the 105s, you can hull break stuff with no armor. So, you know, you can hull break a lot of PT boats, a lot of battle boats, and have a pretty fun time with it. Also has a ton of torpedoes as well that you can see here, which you can use against the destroyers. Overall, this is also a very good pick. Like, there isn't really anything out of these which is, you know, not really good. Then you have the M26 T99. This is a little bit less good, even though it is definitely one which is, I suppose, kind of different, because most people will not have played this. The reason for it is because you have to normally get the Calliope first. You have to buy the Calliope before getting this vehicle, and as you can see, it's an M26 with a bunch of rockets attached to it, and these rockets themselves, they're M8 rockets. They only pen 29mm, so they're not that useful. They're only really good at destroying barrels and destroying tracks, especially at 6.3 where you meet a lot of heavy tanks. So yeah, it's one of those vehicles which is not the best. Let's be honest, you know, the Pershing already at 6.3, it gets into a lot of 6.770 battles, and generally it gets outclassed quite a lot, because of the fact that it doesn't really have the armor, doesn't really have the gun to be able to deal with a lot of the heavies. It feels kind of annoying to play, if I'm honest with you. I've never really enjoyed the Pershing too much, even when fully spaded. So yeah, it's probably a no from me, unless you want to just spam somebody with rockets. Then we go into the Yak III VK-107. The rank 4 of the Soviets, when it comes to their planes, they start losing a lot of their power because of the fact that they lack a lot of high altitude performance, and also ammo, I suppose. And this means that you end up in a situation where you face a lot of German aircraft, you face a lot of other aircraft which are just much better at doing the good old climb, high altitude performance, forcing somebody down, and then going after them. If you can get to a situation in a lot of those planes where you get to low altitude and you get the Germans or the Japanese at low energy, you can actually do really well against them. But the VK-107 doesn't need to do that. So the VK-107 has the 107A engine. It's incredibly powerful. You can run around like a crazy person, and it's just a very, very good fighter to use when it's you know, is on song and aerialistic. It's one of those that you can definitely pick up to be able to get through a lot of those rank 4 vehicles for the Soviets if you're not interested in them, or you can just do what, you know, generally a lot of other people do and just bomb or ground pound with a lot of the vehicles and kind of turn the brain off and not worry about anything else. Not really useful in ground realistic though. There are much better options for the Soviets at this BR, so yeah, it's pretty much, if you're picking this up, it's just for aerialistic for the time being. So yeah, I would rank these. I'd probably go rank 1 for the Cent Action X, then 2 for the Type 1939, 3 for the Dauphine, and then 4 for the Yak III, and then of course the M26 T99, and unfortunately a 5th place. Now, as I said, they haven't changed anything else when it comes to this thing. I definitely think the Warbond shop could do with some kind of box which has the previous year's or the previous month's decals in it. I think that would be really nice to have as an extra thing, especially if you're not interested in the premiums that are on offer. And also the Battle Trophy box hasn't changed, it's still the same. Hopefully we see a change soon. Hopefully we see a new Battle Trophy box. So, let's have a look at the different vehicles that are on offer for a ridiculously good lineup. So first of all, we start off with a banger. The TAR-154. The TAR-154 is a twin-engined fighter which the Germans use at rank 3 battle rating 4.3. So you're already in aerialistic in a really nice BR for Germany. You know, you have stuff like the Bf-109 G2 Trop. You know, you have the Focke-Wulf starting to be very powerful. So it's overall just a very nice BR to play, and the TAR-154 just adds on to that complement. For a heavy fighter, it is quite maneuverable, it is very good at killing bombers, it has a really nice armament of MK-108s and MG-151s. Of course it would be nice if it had 103s, but you know, you will settle with 151s and 108s. They do a ton of damage with them. Of course, if you come up against a single engine fighter, you're probably going to lose out on the mobility area, but you're not going to lose out on the speed area or acceleration. This thing is really good for what it is in the game. I would actually say it's worthy of a BR change. It also has some pretty cool skins on it as well. one of the market skins that is available for it, so it's actually a really nice one. Here's the Bundeswehr skin, you can see right here. Isn't this a really nice skin that's there? And then you have, of course, the invisible paint skin as well, which is also a pretty cool one. So yeah, the TAR 154 for a heavy fighter, it has pretty much everything you would want in a heavy fighter. It reminds me a lot of stuff like the Key 45 Co, which can hold their own by themselves in the game just by, you know, being there. So a great pickup, a really good pickup. The Mörkö-Morane is, of course, in the Swedish tech tree as a Finnish plane. This is a French plane which was modified by the Finnish. They stuck better guns and a better engine in it, which was one of the problems with the D5 series which the French made. So it has access to a pretty powerful engine in the Klimov VK105P, and then also the Berezin guns, the 12.7s, which, you know, you'll find on the vehicle. The Berezins themselves actually have really nice belts. You can see here with the ground belt, API, API, API. This will do a ton of damage to planes, which is obviously what you're looking to do with it. And yeah, the Mörkö-Morane is a really nice aircraft. It flies really well, you know, has great turn, does pretty much everything well for the Swedish, and at the same time it's also at a pretty low BR of 1.7, so you end up in a lot of matches where you face stuff around your BR, you know, 1.7, 2.0, and this thing is easily capable with dealing with planes like that completely fine. The one thing I will say though is Sweden has quite a powerful aviation tree. You know, around this BR you have stuff like the J-22s, so it might be worth not getting this one just to experience the full tech tree. And also because it's rank 2, it's only useful for researching rank 3, 2 and 1, which isn't always the best because obviously you won't get those bonuses higher up. But overall, yeah, the Swedish tree is really nice. It's kind of like the Italian tree, so it's very hard to recommend premiums for it, because I'd rather people just played the tree, because they get to experience some really good aircraft, like, as I said, the J-22s and the J-21s. The E1 Independent is here as well. Always comes back, the good old land ship. This is probably the worst of the bunch. It's a meme vehicle, if we're honest. It's a tank. It's actually the oldest tank in the game, I believe. It was made very, very early on, just after the First World War. And what it is, well, it's a land battleship, isn't it? It doesn't have a ton of armor on it, you know, you can go through it pretty much everywhere. Its survivability comes with the fact that it has a ton of crew, so it might be hard for lower tier machines to actually kill this damn thing because of the amount of crew that's inside. Only has access to a 47, which is its only really useful gun. Has access to some 7.7mm Vickers machine guns, which aren't exactly great. But the 47mm, you can see it doesn't have a great pen on it. It doesn't really do too much well. And, you know, the reload's pretty nice on it, which is okay. But it will still kill most stuff at the BR that it's at. And it does also have this big old honking engine in the back, and means that it has a very large backside, so very easy to kill from the booty. Overall, the Independent is not a great vehicle. It's a vehicle that if you're bored with grinding, or if you want to just chill with mates at low tier, you take this thing out, or you take out the actually good land battleships such as the T-35. Then we have the Yak III. This is the French Yak III. If you've never played a Yak III before, it's got very good mid-altitude performance, got very good low-altitude performance, struggles a little bit at high altitude, but it's still fine. You know, it can still be able to push people down, and it does, you know, struggle a little bit at ammunition, but I've always enjoyed the Shevak. The Shevak gets a lot of hate in the game. I don't really understand why. I've always thought it was a completely fine 20mm. Maybe that's just because I'm so used to using Hispanos for the longest time. But the Yak III is great at doing what a lot of Soviet machines do, which is engage an enemy, force them down to lower altitudes, and then beat them with superior energy retention and also superior turning. So It fits really well in the French tree, and since France has a rough rank 1 and 2 in my opinion when it comes to a lot of their machines, having a machine like the Yak III at rank 3 means that what you can do is you can set it up so it means that you can set it up so you can easily grind through that rank 1, 2 and 3, which is so, well, let's say subpar, and get yourself to rank 4, 5 and 6, where it gets a hell of a lot better for the French. And I would say this is a great pickup as well. You know, as I said, this Warbond shop is really, really nice. And then just on top of that, the Chinu II. The Chinu II is another monster of a machine. The Chinu II has the 75mm that you find on the Cheetos, which are at 4.7, but it's on the Chinu chassis. The Chinu chassis doesn't really matter, you know, it doesn't have a ton of armor on it. It does have a bit of survivability because it has the 5-man crew. So what happens is, you know, you get shot in the turrets, you still survive, you move back, you repair, all of that good stuff. But the thing is, the gun is so good on this machine, and it has great gun depression. Whatever you pen is going to die because you have this Type 4 coup round. It has, as you can see, 80 grams of TNT equivalent. The Type 1 APH is 84 grams, but I think the extra penetration is normally quite nice to have for the coup round. But you can go for even more explosive mass if you want to. But the amount of times I shoot a vehicle with this and the vehicle just disappears is amazing. It's a really fun vehicle, and even though it's a 4.0, even though it's by itself, and normally I say for vehicles, generally you don't want to take vehicles just by themselves at a BR, you know, if you don't have anything around it. This thing runs really well with stuff like the Chaffee. It runs really well with a bunch of the other vehicles you find for Japanese rank 2, and at the same time you can always up tier it to 4.7. It's actually part of my 4.7 lineup, which I've used for Operation Summer. This is the general lineup that I use. I use the Cheeto Late, the Cheeto, and the Chinu II, with the Key 61-2 and the B7A2 as well. So yeah, I highly recommend this vehicle. It's an incredibly good vehicle, and will get you through some of the little issues in Japan. You can see here 2-to-1 KD, and as I said, running it with the Cheeto Late, that one's a 2-to-1 KD as well, and the I don't know where the Cheeto is. Oh, the Cheeto is like a 1.5-to-1, and as somebody who is a subpar tanker, in my opinion, that is very good. Very, very, very good. Then we have the M4A5. This is a vehicle which is in the American tech tree at rank 2. Definitely not as good as some of the other offerings, mainly because it has just the 57mm, and it does gain a buff to the fact that you don't always see this vehicle a lot. So that basically means that you know, sometimes people will just shoot it and it'll bounce because they don't know where to actually shoot the thing. But overall, it's a very standard vehicle at rank 2. There's a lot of very good vehicles for the US at rank 1, 2, and 3. And even though this thing has the rapid fire 57, which has a lot of pen on it, you know, it can do a ton of damage, does have access to artillery, is, you know, pretty much a solid medium tank. It's very hard to bring it along. Because if you have a look at the American lineup, which is at, you know, 3.7, it's already incredibly strong. You know, you have stuff like the M4, you can bring the M4A1, the M10 is up there too, the Chaffee we can't forget about, and then also some other premiums which are around the place as well. So yeah, I suppose if you wanted to supplement the 3.7 lineup, you can, but I think that 3.7 lineup is already pretty powerful. And at rank 2, it only researches rank 1, 2, and 3, and I will say, like, just researching through this tech tree is fun anyway, so I don't think you need stuff like premium bonuses to get through the bad parts, because, well, to be honest, there aren't really any bad parts, especially since they just changed how these stabilizers work, and now they're even better. Then we have the PR1204. This thing is kind of a hidden monster, and the reason why is it has access to the 14.5 KPVs. So the key to all of these Soviet ships, and you'll see this across the board, is what you do is you let, because a lot of engagements are close range, you let the front gun do whatever it wants to do, right? That's the same on the MPK, the MPK 163, the BMO you do control the main gun, but on stuff like this, like the 1124 or the 191, the 191M, you let that gun do what it wants, and you control the machine guns, because the machine guns is where you actually do the majority of your damage. And as somebody who has played a lot of these, I suppose battle boats for the Soviets, you have a great amount of luck and a great amount of usefulness using stuff like KPV machine guns, which have ridiculous amounts of damage output if you let them. They have good penetration as well, so you don't have to worry, about if other people have armor. And since you actually have armor on this machine, around the bridge, around the gun, around even this area here where the engines are, it's actually quite hard to take out this machine, because most people just run full HE, because that's the one which does the most damage to a vehicle in naval forces. So you can, even though this thing only has 14 crew, the survivability is a lot higher than that, just because of this extra armor which is sat on it, which you don't normally find at this level. Overall, I think this is a fun machine as well, and it fits into a really nice, lineup for the Soviets. At 2.3, you can bring along stuff such as the MPK 163, you can bring along the 1124, the 1124 1940. Both of these are very fun. You could even up-tier it into its brother, the 1204 late, which is very similar to it. Or even if you have some of the, I suppose, event vehicles like the 122 BIS, it's definitely something to consider. So as you can see, the Warbond shop is really nice. There's only two really, I suppose, damp squids in a way. You have the Independent and the M4A5, but even the M4A5 is solid. It's just because of the fact that that lineup is already really good, it's hard to make an argument for it. So let's do some priorities. So number one is the Chinu II, definitely, at least in my mind. Then number two is TAR 154. Then, of course, number three is the Yak III, just because it gets much better research bonuses over the other machines in the game because of the fact that it's rank 3. Then number 4 is the Mörkö-Morane. The 1204 comes in at number 5. Number 6 is the M4A5, and then the Independent comes in at a dead last, just because it's not really useful and it's more of a chill, let's just go shoot things tank. So yeah, that is my thoughts on the Warbond shop this month. It is an amazing Warbond shop. You should definitely get involved if you haven't before, even if it is just to pick up stuff like the helmets to work on your collections. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Trigger Hippie, Universe, Conte Baraka, Elove Goat, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Hans, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.